So today I'm happy to introduce the team at the Department for Alcoholic Beverage Control, and they include Allison Taylor. Allison is the commissioner at the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. Maggie Woods is the malt beverage administrator. Joshua Newton is the general counsel. David Wilkerson is the director of enforcement. And Kelly Lovin is the director of licensing. So we have their dream team, and hopefully we're going to take advantage of their knowledge and get our questions answered. So with that, Allison, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Hello, I'm Allison Taylor. Here in the office, we have Kelly Lovin to my right, who is our director of licensing, Maggie Woods, who's the malt beverage administrator, and then Dave Wilkerson, who is the director of enforcement. And then joining us via satellite is Joshua Newton, our general counsel. And so hopefully between all of us, we can answer any questions that you have. We don't really have any big prepared presentation because the time is better spent finding out what you need to know from us. Alcohol law can get really complicated. So there may be a situation where you ask us a question and we're going to have to talk it over, do some research and get back to you, and that's fine. One thing I should say in advance is that the Kentucky Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control is responsible for the licensing, the regulating, and the enforcement of those regulations related to the traffic in alcohol. We also do tobacco enforcement through federal grants that Dave's group runs, and he can tell you a little bit more about that. But we are not involved in the revenue, the taxing of alcohol. We are not involved in economic development related to alcohol. All of those things are other departments. We are here to answer your questions as to what types of licenses you might need, how you need to be compliant with that. There's over 45 different types of alcohol license. And like I said, it's very complicated. So Maggie, as the malt beverage administrator, has all the discretion related to malt beverage licensing. I'm the acting distilled spirits administrator, but really Maggie and I work together on all of those, and we serve as the board. And Joshua advises us on those things. He handles all of our enforcement actions that have to go to court when people don't like what we do and they want to sue us. All of those things are handled by Joshua, and he gives the legal opinions, the advisory opinions that sometimes get requested. Kelly leads all the team in licensing, and if you ever have a really good licensing question, Kelly is definitely your first stop for expertise on that. And then Dave Wilkerson runs all of our investigators. We got, I think, 35 across the state who handle all the, well, less than 35 because some of them are centralized here in leadership. But all of those investigators across the 120 counties are involved in our law enforcement activities. So hopefully between all of us, we can answer your questions, and we look forward to opening it up and letting you all ask the questions. I think Dave had a regional breakdown that he wanted to show you all. So I'll let Dave take over and just talk about the enforcement a little bit, because we do get a lot of questions about who is where and what they do.
All righty, welcome everyone. I think there's a map that someone could be able to share there. Miss Andrews is on mute, but I think she has it.
Actually, Jody, do you have the map? There we go.
Beautiful, thank you. So I'm just going to go over real quickly, kind of to add on Commissioner Taylor's description of what we do. We have 40 personnel in the Division of Enforcement. The state's broken into 5 sections, as you see geographically. It's based on the number of licensees in each county. The Division of Enforcement is made up by myself as the director. We have an assistant director, 2 investigator managers, 5 investigator supervisors, and 29 sworn. We're all sworn law enforcement officers that serve the state across 120 counties. And we also have several administrative folks that work within the Office of Enforcement. We conduct investigations related to alcohol licensees across the Commonwealth. Currently over 8,600 sites and over 15,000 licensees. These investigations may involve numerous violations of KRS and KARs, including but not limited to sale to minor, over service, underage servers and employees, hidden ownership, illegal gambling, trading, human trafficking, and a variety of other disorderly premise violations. We operate something called a Operation Zero Tolerance Alcohol Compliance Check, in which we use investigative aids or underage purchasers who go into establishments under our guidance and try to make purchases to see if licensees will sell to underage individuals. We conduct investigations also into the illegal product sales at retail outlets for tobacco and related products, including the electronic nicotine distribution system, ENDS. It's a three-pronged initiative. We have, as the commissioner said, a grant from the FDA in which we go out and inspect about 5,250 sites per year for them. We also participate in doing the SINAR, which is administered through CHFS, which is an additional over 500 sites separately that we check for alcohol compliance or for tobacco compliance. And then we also do state tobacco compliance based on complaints that we receive specifically for retail outlets. We receive complaints via mail, email, telephone, internet, through the ABC website, and also in person. Additionally, we do source investigations. A lot of people don't know that we do that. It's associated with alcohol-related fatal accidents. We receive FARS reports, which are the fatal accident reporting system from the state police. And we will investigate to see if there was a place of last drink that could be possibly responsible for over service. This is one type of investigation where local administrators are very important to us because they can sometimes direct us to where the possible outlets would be that the person who was involved in the fatal accident had been prior to the accident. We also conduct field reports of inspection for licensed applicants, and this is given to us by our licensing division. And we'll go out and interview and do drawings and layouts and answer any questions for all of our potential licensees who have applied for a license. We also do periodic licensee inspections. We try to check each one each year. That's a huge task for 29 investigators and 10,000 places. So we do our best to get that. Just to let you know, our current compliance rate on violations across the board with tobacco and alcohol is about 85%. Prior to COVID, it was 92 or better. COVID kind of put kind of messed things up a little bit because we didn't have as many opportunities to go out and do the compliance check just due to the restrictions with respect to using our underage purchasers. So we're getting back in the game big time with that now. And so folks are learning that ABC is here again, and we're watching what they're doing. So that's a thumbnail sketch of what enforcement does. I think that's all I have until we get to a question.
David, it's Diane. There actually is a question in the chat box, and it looks like it might be for you. But he said in their county ordinance, there's you cannot sell alcoholic beverages where gambling devices are present. And recently, the sheriff raided a motel where they had a room set up where gambling devices were present. And so they had it set up as a mini casino, serving drinks, and were paying out cash rewards from the video games. And they have received conflicting information on whether the games are legal. And he's asking for clarification.
Okay, this is Allison. There's a lot of questions and miscommunication about gambling devices out right now. And I hate to give a lawyer answer, but I'm a lawyer, so it's going to depend on the machine. It's going to depend on what your local prosecutors want to go forward with as far as prosecuting those. A lot of folks think that at ABC we either bless or disapprove of gambling devices. That's not really our role. The state law says you can't have these gambling machines inside of licensed premises as well. But it's one of those where we have to deal with it as we come to them. So I can't tell you whether those machines that you were dealing with in that hotel room are legal or not. That's something that you're going to have to talk to your local county attorney about. We're glad to come in and assist with any operations, but again, it's just going to depend on what that is at this point. And it's not the answer that anybody wants, but it is the answer.
Judge Green, did that help?
I might add as well, it sounds like it's a motel room that they were serving drinks and gambling in. If it's just a motel room that they're serving drinks in, that would also be a criminal activity for unlicensed alcoholic beverage sales and service. So they could speak to the county attorney about that, or Commonwealth's attorney about that.
Okay, great. Okay, I guess we can move on. That was the only question I saw. So Allison, do you want to wait for more questions?
Yes, I mean, we're here to answer your all's questions. We don't have any presentation for you all. So if there are questions that want to be asked of us, either in a moderator form, like from Ms. Andrews or whoever at KACo, or if you all on the video have questions, we're here to answer them.
I might add, just as my so you know about the legal division of it. Legal division is currently comprised of me, my staff attorney Christine Foster, and my paralegal Lydia Kendrick. So we're a 2-attorney and a paralegal operation, and we handle, as Allison said, all of the administrative proceeding enforcement. We handle advisory opinions. We work with regulations, drafting regulations, working those through. We field all of the questions that come through that have to do with law, and any other matters that come through the State Department. So just we're a small operation, and I know that we do get questions from time to time. I tend to get back pretty quickly on the county or city administrators if they ask questions, but if we take some time, then please know that we are working. It's just again, small operation.
Okay,
So there's another question. Do you all want to ask the questions, or are we supposed to read them out loud, or how do you want to?
I can do that, or I'm encouraging now the participants to raise their hand or say I have a question, and they can ask their own. But Judge Taylor from Madison County has a question concerning local option. Can or should Sunday sales or alcohol go on the ballot for a local precinct option? So,
Okay.
Joshua, you want to take that?
I actually don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to do some research quickly to know that, but yeah, I can definitely look into that and get back to you.
Okay, we have another question. Who at ABC can this person contact to discuss options for alcohol licensing for the local Chamber of Commerce.
Sure. So this is Maggie Woods. You can either contact me or Kelly Lovin, and we can talk through. I don't know if this is for the chamber or if this is a company or a business contacting the chamber to figure out, hey, what do I need? Because we get that a lot. But we're happy to speak with either the chamber or the business that needs help figuring out exactly what they would need. So they could just ring the number here, ask for either of us, or she just shared our email. So either way, whatever is better. If it's easier to talk through, we're happy to do that or do it via email.
Thank you, Maggie. Judge Anderson wants to know, can you give some clarification on what regulatory fees can be spent on? The guidance they've gotten apparently has been vague.
Well, you have to spend them on things related to your alcohol enforcement and related to enforcing alcohol laws. So there's no set list, like you can spend them on XYZ, but you're gonna have to be able to make the argument in court, should you have to go there, that this is related to enforcing the alcohol laws. So folks may, spend them to pay a salary for somebody who does only alcohol enforcement or things like that, that you're going to have to be able to make the argument. And that's why you've probably gotten vague answers, because as long as you can make that argument and your local attorneys feel comfortable making that argument to the court that what you're spending them on is in relation to the alcohol enforcement in your community, then that's okay and to go forward with if they feel comfortable making that argument.
And on this, I can add that we do have a regulation, and that's 804 KAR 10:031 that gives some makes it a little less vague, but not entirely less vague. We don't want to unnecessarily limit these sorts of expenditures beyond what they may be, and we don't know what all technology or what all ideas there are out there or will be. So it's left somewhat vague, but yeah, it's just like Allison said. And I'll go ahead and add that site into the chat.
Okay, I think what I'll do is go ahead and address some of the questions we've gotten, and then whoever is appropriate can take them. We've had a question concerning how are on sampling license and how are those policed, and is any type of notification form required?
I'm going to leave what's required for licensing to Kelly and Maggie, but it sounds like you got two different questions. You got an enforcement question and a licensing question. So we'll start with licensing.
Sure. So we are alerted to sampling events. Like an example would be like a large liquor store in Kentucky would send me their monthly sampling calendar. It may change a little bit, but it's fairly accurate. And if things change, they let me know. In terms of enforcement, obviously Dave's people will go there and check them, spot check them. But I can tell you that most of the liquor stores police themselves. One, this is done to let people taste product so they will hopefully purchase it. They don't want people overserved, leaving in that capacity. So they really do police themselves in a good way, but obviously his people also check into that.
Yeah, and I'll just add that, we, on things like that, generally we're complaint based. When we receive a complaint that there's an issue, we'll go in and check it, usually again with, well, I won't go into the details about how we do it. Several different ways that we'll check them. But another way is with our annual inspections, we'll go in and check them out at that time to see how they're operating and what hours, and if they're complying with the restrictions that are associated with that.
All right, any follow-up questions to that? Okay, we have another question in the chat box. Can a National Park Service contract with a business out of the county to serve alcohol at an event they are having without applying for an event license from the local ABC administrator.
So this is Maggie again. Jimmy, would you share where you are? Because I think I've been working on this issue. What county you're in? And if you don't want to share it, that's okay.
Here,
Macquarie County.
McCreary.
Okay, thank you. This has come up a couple times recently, and obviously they can contract with the business. They don't have to work just within the county. But they would need the temporary event license. There was some confusion that I don't believe it was in your county. There was a National Park Service where there was a little bit of confusion on that, but they could use whomever they would want to for their temporary event.
But are they still required to get a temporary license?
We believe they are. Yes, there was one recently that did not think that they needed to. They thought they operated, sort of in a vacuum, but we do believe that they do need that.
Right, that was us, as a matter of fact.
Okay, that was you. Okay. I think I spoke with your administrator, so I apologize. I didn't
Okay, thank you.
remember.
Okay, and excuse me, we had a question about, is it legal for a parent to buy alcohol for their underage child?
It is not. Well, okay, we can't charge someone for, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, or what would actually be called an unlawful transaction with a minor. If it is the parent, there's an actual exception in the statutes for that. So, no, I guess technically it's not illegal to buy alcohol for your minor child. Now, might you have problems with CPS if they're a 4-year-old, or all these other things that come with it? Yes, but no, it is not. If you were to charge a parent with endangering the welfare of a minor or an unlawful transaction with a minor, there's actually a written-in exception for a parent who provides alcohol to their minor child.
Okay, I thought so, but it's good to get clarification.
Absolutely.
Okay, now I know we've had some questions, general questions from local administrators. So are any of you on here who have a question that hasn't been addressed? I don't want to call you out, but.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I think I submitted one, and it was really, and I think you touched on it briefly there, is I'm having a request to putting these little quick gambling things in the, and that actually is just walk-in stores where they're selling, packaged liquor. I didn't know where the law draw the line at. I know in open drink areas, I think it's pretty more strict, but I'm getting requests from, these business owners to have these little quick, and of course, they're calling them a game of skill now instead of gambling. So I'm not sure who makes that determination. But I think Josh said something about, I just really need to talk to the county attorney and see how she feels if we push the matter. Because actually, the city here, they have their separate ordinance and we have ours, and this business owner owns one in the city and in the county. So he's put one in the city, so I'm not sure if the city's enforcing it or what. So that's where I'm kind of hitting. I'm allowed to do it here, but I'm not allowed to do it in the county. So it's kind of what I'm facing. So.
Yeah, so what you're dealing with, generally in Kentucky, gambling is illegal, right? So no matter what your local ordinance is, whether you're in a licensed entity, whatever. So that's the first thing. And what the issue has become is whether these are, quote, skill games, which therefore makes them not gambling. Okay, so that's what we're fighting. That's what we're dealing with here. What's going to have to happen if a county attorney wants to go forward with saying these are gambling devices, this is in a licensed facility or not, they're gonna have to be willing to go and fight the battle and hire the experts and have the money to fight that out in court. We've asked for an attorney general opinion. We have not received one yet. I don't know if we will receive one. But that's what it's gonna come down to, is someone going and, you know, having that battle of the experts to say whether it's a skill game or not. Some of them, like I know Dave and his folks had a case with, well, like a quarter pusher machine. Those are just blatantly, you know, gambling devices. But there are some of them that have taken to saying, oh, we're skill-based and that makes us not gambling. And it's going to require creating some kind of case law at this point, or having the AG say, no, you're not, or yes, you are. And we just haven't gotten that far yet. And from my experience with county attorneys, they don't have a whole lot of funds for expert witnesses. And most of those they have to use for their DUI cases. So that is where you need to start to make sure that they have the fire in the belly to go forward and fight that in court. And, you know, we may have to do that in several different counties across the state. When it comes to those, we know there are 2 or 3 that say they're skill-based and they're legal and all of that, but that's going to be up to some court to decide, or the legislature if they want to give us a law on that. It's not the best answer, but no good.
If by chance the county attorney did want to use this, could those fees or regulatory fees be used at expert witness, since it's a form of enforcement?
I don't know. Let me think on that. I mean, it seems like if it's in an alcohol licensed facility and they want to go forward with some also violation of the alcohol laws, they could probably make that argument.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, do state parks have to pay a registration fee to the county?
No, I meant just regulatory fee.
Regulatory fees, sorry.
You mean like the tax or the license? Like the tax on the sales?
Yes.
My understanding is that they do have to pay regulatory license fees on sales within the county.
How do we make them do that if they're not doing that?
I can't tell you. That's not something that we necessarily have control over, though. If they are violating, then a case can potentially be investigated and brought.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, we also have a question. And of course, this would just be probably your opinion, but ideally, what criteria would be used to hire a local ABC administrator?
Yeah, I see the question. I don't think there's an ideal person. I mean, it runs the gamut. We've seen like a sheriff, a mayor, someone at City Hall. We've seen a lot of people hold this position. Some areas that are highly populated need one person to do the job. Sometimes they just do it as an add-on if you only have a few licenses, because it's just not enough work. But I think just someone with good communication skills who's happy to call us with questions, willing to learn the technology. Those are, I mean, willing to learn the technology is probably the most challenging part for people that have trouble with it. Other than that, it's fairly simple.
Judge Taylor, do you have a follow-up to that?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay. All right, we have another question. Can or will a local administrator have access to the licensing portal once a license is issued? Currently, they only have access at the time it's made. The application is made to the state and they are notified via email. And we don't have a separate application and use the data collected by the portal for our local files. And it will be helpful to have access to the uploaded files. Is that clear?
Yes, it is. They don't currently have access once it's been approved. It kind of drops off their dashboard. We are working on that to allow you access to see applications you've approved in the past 90 days, but it has not been put in place yet. However, if you need a document, feel free to reach out and I can pull that and send it to you.
Scott, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much. And I knew that was probably on the horizon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a provision to request additional quota license for a county beyond the current allotment? And if so, how many additional ones can be added?
So there is a process to request that we take into account. Usually that's done when there's a large population growth, or if you're wanting to knock down to a license for every 1,500 people. So James, I don't know, James, where are you located?
Powell County.
I'm sorry, where?
Powell.
Oh, Powell, okay. So do you know, right off the bat, do you know how many you currently have?
5.
5, and they're all taken?
Yes.
Okay. So you all could, your city council could send in some information asking to drop down to the 1,500, to the license for every 1,500 people. There's a lot of information that needs to be sent in. If you would like to email me, I'm happy to send you what you would need, because it's a pretty big undertaking. So I want to make sure you know all the moving parts.
This would be from the county level, and of course, we could be up to almost 9. So, and by that token, so how's that work?
I would, let me interrupt. I believe under the statute, it doesn't have, there's no process to increase the number of county licenses, only city licenses within a dry county. So if it's a dry or moist county with a wet city inside of it, that wet city can petition for more licenses up to the 1,500 per resident, so long as it doesn't increase beyond the 23 one for every 2,300 in the county. That's how I read the statute.
Yeah, I guess it's something where legislation needs to be changed. It's kind of unfair anyway that they come in under the county ordinance, as a county wet dry, and then they've taken great advantage of it, in that they're probably making more than the county.
I can't really comment on that, but if you do want it to change, then it's probably gonna have to be a legislative change. Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? All right, we had a question before about local enforcement. If an issue is identified, an enforcement issue is identified, at what point does the local administrator contact ABC?
Oh, sorry.
Well, I would just say, as soon as there's a concern, you can certainly, and Kelly can put my email address up on there. It's on the website, or you can call my number and I'll be happy to talk with you about it. As I said at the beginning, we take complaints from all different types of sources, and certainly a local administrator can contact us, and we'll take a look at what the issue is.
Okay. I'm looking over some of these to see if they've not been answered, since our participants are kind of quiet this morning. Okay, so we have a question from Round County. And he says, soon we'll have the second reading and installment, actually tomorrow, of Round County ABC ordinance. They've met local enforcement agent and will be installed as the ABC administrator. They've had great interaction with everyone there at the department and welcome any input to make the transition. So it's just a thank you, basically. So apparently it's a position they're recently filling.
Is that Rowan County, did you say?
Rowan, yes.
Yeah, I think Joshua Plank covers that. And I'm not sure who made the comment, but hopefully that's the investigator that you've spoken with, or Nathan KACo, either one, they both are over in that area. So they're more than happy to help you out with any questions that you might have.
Okay. Great. Does someone want to explain the definition of premises? Just broadly, and how it applies to licensing, what they can and cannot do with that license? Like using a parking lot to serve?
Yeah, so whatever's on their license, which is their footprint, which is their premise, it's whatever, when Dave's people go out and do a field report, there's a space, whatever that space is your footprint area. That's where you can serve. Anything outside of that is not licensed. So, you know, if people don't know what it is, we're happy to send it to them. During COVID, obviously, there were a lot of options to extend your footprints without a field report for a temporary fix. A lot of people have sent in a request to keep that, which we are happy to do. They are on the list for a field report to add that on, but you can only serve in the area that you are licensed to serve. So like if you didn't add something on for COVID and you're just serving out in a parking lot, that's a no. And if there's a follow-up to that, because I know that's kind of confusing because we allowed things during COVID and now we're sort of trying to get that permanently on, but if that person would like to follow up with any more information.
Any follow-up questions? I can only see this many on my screen, so
Oh, okay.
it's hard to see if anyone has their hand up.
Hey, can you go over that footprint thing again? Because we had a bar owner tell us that he was allowed to sell, you know, within his property lines.
Well, I think you would have to find out from us, and we're happy to look into it too, what his field report says, because whatever his field report says that marks the boundaries is where he's allowed to sell. So without looking that up, I don't know. You know, some people choose to license, you know, a side area in their footprint, some don't. So it's not black and white. We would have to go back to what the enforcement officer wrote up.
Okay.
Okay, we have a question. Do you have any recommendations for local license renewal schedules? And when do state licenses renew?
I would recommend that you follow along with the state renewal schedule, and it's per county. So we have renewals in January, April, June, August, October, November, December. So if you want to know a specific county, just let me know and I can tell you what that is.
That's in statute, right? Mm-hmm. So that's actually laid out in statute. If you want to look at the statute, I don't know it off my head. Joshua probably does, or Kelly, but it will tell you what counties renew in what months. So
and Rowan County is in June.
In June. Okay, thanks.
It's actually a regulation. I don't know it off the top of my head. I will get it for you here in a second and put it into the chat.
Perfect. And we have a question. Do you recommend that a county ABC officer be bonded?
Don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
It's no longer a requirement.
Not a requirement.
It's no longer a requirement to be bonded.
Officer or administrator?
Administrator.
Okay, this question had come up before. If there is a restaurant that does not meet the 70-30 requirement, does the local administrator take action or report it?
Well, you can certainly report it to us and then we can investigate it. We'll do an audit on the licensee and check to make sure that they're within the guidelines that they should be. And if not, then we'll bring a case against them.
Okay. What record keeping is required for the local administrator?
Required by the state?
Yes, I'm assuming. Tammy, is that your question? Yes, that's the question.
We don't have a specific list of what you would keep. I mean, I would always suggest to the locals to, you know, when you go places and check it out prior to our field reports, keep your notes, obviously keep your emails that you email to us, asking questions. We'll have all the history in the portal. As Kelly said, hopefully at some point you're going to have the 90 days, but we're going to have all the history of approvals. But I would always keep your notes in case you have to go back or there's a problem. But in terms of specific requirements, you know, we don't have that. It would just be sort of your work product to get to the approval.
Yeah, and you would fall under, some of your things may fall under the, you know, the State Open Records Act. So you want to be in compliance with that, whether it's related to your alcohol work or not. But just as like Maggie said, a specific administrator shall keep XYZ documents. We don't have any kind of listing of that to place on the local administrators.
All right. Okay, Joshua has posted in the chat box the regulation dealing with license renewals. So, and we'll include that when we send our follow-up information out. So you will have that. Okay, guys, it's not quite an hour. I expected there to be more questions, but if there aren't any more, oh, wait a minute, we do have another. Okay, a county ABC officer, once a permit is submitted to the officer for approval, what are her duties?
I think we need to distinguish, are we talking about an ABC administrator or are we talking about a law enforcement officer who does ABC enforcement activities?
Tammy, can you clarify? Are you talking about
An officer or an administrator?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And when you say a permit, do you mean an application?
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, once it comes to you, and I might let Kelly hop in here too. I mean, you're gonna do the research on it. Do you know, you've got some flexibility. Do you feel like it's a safe area? Do you feel like the building is safe? Do you like the location? I mean, sort of, there's some flexibility there. I mean, ABC administrators can deny. It doesn't happen often. And it's pretty rare, but we just sort of want you're the expert in your county. We want to know if there's any glaring problems that you see with either the location, the owner, something going on in the area. That's the stuff we want to know. Outside of that, we would expect you to approve. But here's the deal, Tammy, if you want to like have a quick call so we can go through if there's some specific issues you'd like to talk about, not in this forum, we're happy to do that.
Okay. Okay, last chance for questions. Apparently there aren't any.
Diane, this is Allison. If I could just say, if you go on the ABC website, We have frequently asked questions. We have advisory opinions where legal questions have been asked and we've given an official opinion. All of the statutes and regs related to ABC and alcohol law are all condensed there for you to look at. So obviously you can always email any of us and ask a question, but you also may find that it's already been answered, because if you have it, probably other folks do too. That is sort of your first go-to is the ABC website. Who's the best person to walk us through getting our setup? Meaning, have you just recently become a wet county? Is that what you mean by getting our setup? Okay. Don't we have an online guide for we just voted to be wet and now what do we do? So if you go on the website, there is a sort of an introductory guide for newly wet counties. And then you can always talk to Kelly and Maggie about what, you know, the steps to take if you need something more than what's in that guide.
Yeah, and we'll help you get logged into the portal your first time and sort of help you navigate it. Because it, you know, it could be confusing.
Well, thanks for that. And like you said, there are some very good frequently asked questions on the website. I went on there myself and saw that. And as a reminder to the participants today, we will be sending out a recording of today's webinar. So you will have that. We'll also include, because they've agreed to let us, the email addresses of our presenters today. So they've invited you, and we encourage you to reach out to them with specific questions that may be unique to your county. So, and I jumped right in here when we got started. Jim was on here, and then I wanted to get started right away because I didn't want to run out of time, but I realized I failed to introduce myself, and I'm Diane Andrews, a coordinator here at KACo for training and education, and Jody Litton is on here as well as Jennifer Burnett. And if you have suggestions for topics that you're interested in or need answers to, please reach out to us, any of us, and just look at your Friday newsletter. That always gives you an update of what is to come. So,
Diane.
Yes.
Hey, Diane, this is Reagan.
Hey, Reagan.
Hey, on the question I had earlier about Sunday sales, whether it could be on a ballot or not, who would, is somebody going to get that question answered for me? And who would I see that coming from?
We can get you an answer to the question. All of the local options, all of the election stuff related to alcohol are handled by the State Board of Elections. So we can get the answer for you and what the wording would need to say if it is required to be on there. We can get that back to you, but any questions related to certifying elections, what kind of language needs to be on for what issue, those all go through the State Board of Elections. But we'll get that. I can ask and get back to you specifically what needs to be on there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Reagan. And we've had several put in the chat box and thank our presenters for this, and we certainly do. We know you're busy, and we thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to do this, and it's helpful to our officials. So again, thank you.